I feel like DMC4 has the most missed potential of anything in the Devil May Cry series. DMC2 was set up to fail by Capcom because they wanted to rush out a sequel to a very popular game. The reboot was a missed opportunity entirely, and also poorly handled by a company that really just wanted to antagonize the fan base for some reason.
Not in a million years.
But DMC4 had everything going for it. It was following up 3, it was coming out on what at the time was new-gen hardware, it was starting a new protagonist story. The entire game had so much going for it, and yet it still kind of missed the mark. But today's video isn't a topic on DMC4 as a whole. It's actually going to be a missed opportunity I think came with the special edition. And I feel like that missed opportunity is not letting Kratos be a playable character. So that statement might seem a little weird because I don't know too many people that were demanding for Kratos to be playable. But I feel like him being set up to basically be Nero's rival in the game kind of warranted him getting a little bit more special treatment. Plus, let's be real, it would have made more sense than Virgil. I like Virgil, and I like the changes that DMC4 made to his playstyle, and I'm glad they stuck around in 5, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to put him in that game when the only real ruling he has on the plot is being Nero's father, which isn't even confirmed until 5. Kratos, on the other hand, is very much set up to be Nero's basically rival, even to the point where he has a very poorly done but still change of heart at the end where he goes to fight the Pope before getting killed. And I feel like they could have expanded more on his story, maybe made him a little bit more enjoyable as a character by letting him be playable and letting him maybe run through the levels and be an interesting style of combat. Because I've actually been thinking about it the last couple days on how his style of combat could have worked, because he's very unique. He doesn't use firearms, and while that's not, like, inherently bizarre when we have Virgil, who has summon swords instead of guns, he doesn't really have very much ranged weaponry beyond his spears, and I don't think you want to rely heavily on spears just for ranged weaponry. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. The main reason why I think he should have been playable is because, like I said, he's set up to be Nero's rival throughout the game, and it would have been a very interesting thing to do, especially since he dies and will most likely never come back. So we kind of lost a chance for Nero's one real genuine rival to be playable in the game. And before anyone tries and says, oh, it would have been too difficult because there's nothing really in his file or anything that would make him usable, I don't believe that at all, because they constructed an entire new combat style for Trish. Yeah, Ladies is mostly Dante's gunslinger, but Trish's stuff is almost exclusively unique. So I feel like for the special edition, they could have put in the work to actually make a decent playstyle for him. So let's talk about how I think his playstyle would actually be. And when you look at his boss fight, as you would with any sort of character like this, he only has 2 default weapons, a sword and his spears that he can summon. So we're going to focus on the sword first. Now, he doesn't use guns, as I already stated, so I imagine for a ranged projectile, you should give him something similar to Ashura's spectral feather blade things in the newest Mortal Kombat game, and basically summon them kind of like spectral swords or summon swords, and let him utilize them for different abilities and whatnot. But I feel like most of his gameplay should be very rush-down focused, like in a fighting game, where all of his combos are focusing on knocking away the player with different moves, or knocking away the enemies, rather, with different moves that can close the gap and bring enemies into him and whatnot. I feel like he should have a parry ability as well that might even bring out his, like, Devil Trigger shield wing, because it's very obvious that he's, his Devil Trigger is inspired by the Angelo enemies that you fight who have the big shields and whatnot. So I feel like not including the wing somehow into just his basic kit or some sort of, like, shielding style mechanic a la Royal Guard would be kind of a missed chance. But overall, I don't think the sword is going to be too different from, like, anything else that we've seen in Devil May Cry, because every character, with the exception of Lady, wields a sword. So swords aren't really going to be like groundbreaking things for him. But the spear, on the other hand, could be very interesting. So it'd be real easy to look at the spear and just go, oh, just do what the Dropnir spear did in God of War Ragnarok. Or just be like the spear call ritual in Elden Ring, or the other one that summons the spears from the ground. I think it's a Clean Rot spear or something. But I actually have a much cooler idea. I feel like these spears should be used to like set traps along the battlefield that you could knock enemies into. Give him an ability where he plants a spear in the ground, and then he sends an enemy over there with a combo, and then the spears jut up, stab the enemy, and hold it in place, so you could go in for another combo. Obviously, yes, you could have abilities similar to the Dropnir spear, where he throws a spear in the air and it rains down a bunch of projectiles, because spears can be used as both melee weapons and ranged weapons. I don't think it would ultimately affect too much. You could even include, for the first time in Devil May Cry, projectile-based combos, where he could throw like just a flurry of spears in different ways, similar to the way the Lucifer weapon works in DMC4. And expanding on that, bringing up Lucifer, you could totally have the spears hang in the air like traps that way and just skewer enemies on them as you go. I don't know if anyone's seen any of the old test footage from the original idea for the Doom 2016 game, but there were environmental kills that you could shoot enemies onto like helicopter blades and stuff and they would get stabbed. You could totally do that with a spear-based weapon. I feel like a trap-based character hasn't been explored in Devil May Cry yet. There were hints of it with the Lucifer weapon, but I would really love to see them actually give this kind of playstyle a chance. I feel like with just how fluid the combat is in DMC, you could absolutely come up with some really stylish stuff for a character who utilizes traps. And that brings us to the Devil Trigger, and to be honest with you, I've got nothing. After reviewing my footage of the fight, I don't see anything in that fight that is more an enhancement to his basic set than what he would already have. The most I could say would be the traps would be bigger, the detonations would be bigger, the damage would be bigger, the swords would shoot out beams of light when he does the combos. There's nothing I can really see for his Devil Trigger that would ultimately affect the gameplay too much, which is kind of sad because Devil Trigger has always been an enhancement. The most I could see would be with his wing, you could probably give him the ability to fly, which would probably be one of the first times where a character doesn't need a weapon to fly specifically. And that's going to do it for this video. This was more just a hypothetical idea video than anything else. Clearly, none of this will ever happen. We missed our chance to get Kratos as a playable character, like I said in the beginning, and I don't see us ever getting a chance again where he's playable. But you never know. Virgil came back from the dead, so why not? Maybe Kratos might. Sorry this one, there's such a long gap between this one and my last video. I'm going to start working on trying to fix that, so you're not waiting months upon months for me to upload. So hopefully I can change that in the future, and I will see you guys in the next video.